I'm Tyler.
And hey, I'm Brian.
And in a previous episode, we had talked about when to use a clicker versus a stick and such. And you had talked about how in some cases with some of the clicking tools, you can build up a static charge and potentially introduce new problems. I wanted to expand on that a little bit more because oftentimes I see these guys go out there and, click, 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 and I'm like, is that really necessary? And I go back to the IEC standard and it says very clearly, inspect it, clean it, inspect. It doesn't say clean, 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 clean. It just says it once. Can you expand a little bit about that as a manufacturer of cleaning?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about fiber optic connectors, probably the number one contaminant out there is dust particles, right? Mm-hmm. And this is where I think electrostatic charge is the main contributor to this. So if something starts to develop a negative charge, then all the positive charged dust particulates are going to be attracted to it because it wants to try to get itself back to electrically neutral state. If you think about fiber optic connectors, I mean, the ferrules are either ceramic or they're composite, and the composite are actually a glass plastic. Yeah. So that means they're dielectric, and essentially what they're acting like is an electrical insulator when the static charge gets on. So it's not going to decay, and until you have a way of actually dissipating that charge off, Tyler, it's going to stay there for a while.
So you just got really technical there for a second, and my more simple mind gravitated towards when I was a kid walking around the carpet with my socks on. You're basically doing that, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. The technical term for that is called triboelectric charging. And basically what you're doing is you kind of shuffle your feet across the carpet. What you're doing is you're disrupting the electrons on the surface. So when you have these guys that are saying, hey, you should go out there and pop your clicker 3 or 4 times to try to make sure you get it clean, in some ways you actually be doing more damage than you are actually doing something good. And again, probably the best thing you can do is when you're using these clickers is go through, inspect it, then clean it. I would say a good quality tool is going to let you get at everything within one shot, right? And that's really what the designs are. Some of them actually have names that sort of refer to the one shot.
Yeah.
But if you're having to go through it multiple times, not only are you potentially charging it, but the other thing too is you're also driving up your cost, right? And so if you're having to run this thing 3, 4, 5 times and then inspect it and do the same process, well, you might as well have gone to a stick cleaner, which could be more effective. But yeah, the static charge is I think one of the main contributors of in-phase contamination, especially with dust.
And one of the things that I've seen guys who do that in the past is one of the reasons that they're doing that is because the debris isn't coming off, not because the cleaner wasn't effective. It was because they didn't do it proactively in the first place. And we've talked about this before. If they're doing that reactively, if they've already mated that connector, a lot of that debris might be embedded on there in the first place. And so it's most likely not coming off. And if it does, it's very likely could leave a chip behind anyway. So that goes back to something we've talked about before. Make sure that you're inspecting and cleaning and re-inspecting proactively as opposed to reactively. And no amount of click, 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 click is going to actually solve the problem. As you were saying, it's probably going to create more problems.
And Tyler, in some cases too, this is also where we had in a previous episode talking about making sure that when you open up the bag and you pull the cable assembly out or taking the cap off and looking at the connector in the port, can't assume that it's clean, because sometimes in the manufacturing process, and they're using clickers and they're using different cassette products that are out there, what they're doing, and it's unintentional, but sometimes what they have is a ferrule that has a static charge, or even the adapter can have a static charge. And so that's one of the reasons why you never want to ever just assume anything is clean. You always want to do the inspect, clean, and re-inspect process.
Yeah, exactly. Tell us what you think. What's working for you? What do you guys like to use? Cleaners, sticks, and such. We'd like to hear from you. Thanks again. Until next time, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Brian.